Chili con carne is one of those kitchen standbys, one of those dinners that everybody's got a take on. Whether it's making it with different kinds of mince or the types of chilies you use, or whether you cook it in 2 minutes or whether you cook it in 3 hours, there's no end of recipes out there. I wanted to explore some of the more unusual takes by some of the UK's best chefs and figure out if there's anything cool in there we need to adapt for our own versions. I'm Gary from Big Spud and I love looking at celebrity chef recipes and putting them to the test. What I'm looking at here is chefs that do something a little bit different. Let's take a look at a recipe by Nigella Lawson for chili con carne. She calls it cheesy chili. Her big shortcut, or hack as we say these days, is to use chorizo. So we'll start by frying chorizo in a dry pan and keep going until it starts to bleed out some of its juices. Then we'll add beef mince, keep stirring, adding some cocoa and oregano and tomato puree. Once they're all fully combined, we're going to add some tomatoes and a little extra water. Now a dash of Worcester sauce, kidney beans, and then we'll turn down the heat low, pop on a lid and let it simmer gently for about 20 minutes. So we come back to it 20 minutes later. Got a nice thick consistency, though it's still a little wet. We could of course crank up the heat and do a few last minute reductions. And I'm just going to serve up a small portion because for the final stage she does call it cheesy chili. I'm just going to add in some mozzarella. So that's Nigella's very quick and simple chili con carne, and again in the blurb of her recipe she'll tell you it's not authentic. It's just about hitting the right notes so that you feel like you're having chili, and it's very much something you could knock up on a weeknight evening. So let's give it a go. Yeah, so that definitely puts me in mind of a chili con carne. The chorizo is dominant, but not in an unpleasant way. It really gives you some meatiness and some of the spice levels. Of course, you could pep this up with a little more chili powder or diced chili or chili sauce as you prefer. And the cheese is a lot of fun, you know, it's just cooling you off there. And kidney beans always make me think of chili. So is it authentic? Not in the slightest. But again, it's about making you feel like you're having the dish with a little bit less effort. And I think that's what we've got here. And it's at this point I want to say thank you to channel members for sponsoring this channel. For as little as 99 pence per month, you can become a supporter of Big Spud. And this generous donation enables me to keep on going, to find new ingredients, to try out new gadgets. And if you get other things in return. You get bonus videos, occasional posts, and all other bits and bobs that I can chuck your way as I come across them. Thank you again, channel members. I really appreciate it. If you want to become a channel member, click the join button down below. I want to tackle Jamie Oliver's chili con carne meatballs, which takes the essence of the things you love about a chili con carne and fuses it into a super fast dish. Essentially, we make a bunch of chili flavoured meatballs, then a tomatoey sauce, and bring them together at the end. About 400 grams of beef mince, add some salt and some pepper. And then the shortcut here is to use garam masala, which obviously is not even in the slightest authentic. But with a mix of cumin, chili, coriander and other spices, nudges us in the right direction. So I'm super quickly going to scrunch this up into a whole bunch of meatballs. And while those meatballs fry, every so often, I'm going to give them a little turn. We're going to make the sauce in a blender. Then we're going to add a jar of peppers, some spring onions, paprika, passata, and some coriander. So I've blended this up for about a minute. Now we've got a sweet, smoky, tomatoey sauce. And now I'm just going to gently fry some cumin seeds and kidney beans and add my tomato sauce. And just as my meatballs are done and the sauce is coming to a simmer, I'm going to bring it all together and serve. So Jamie's 15-minute meal, chili con carne meatballs. I don't think it's recognisably chili. I mean, the kidney beans are a tip-off, but it was certainly very, very quick to make. Let's give it a try. It takes my brain in different directions. Am I eating a pasta dish with meatballs? Am I eating a chili? Am I eating a curry dish? My mind was all over the place. It doesn't put me in mind of chili con carne, I have to say that. Nearly, but not quite. The flavours are good. It is a good dish. But if you're approaching this thinking chili con carne, you might be disappointed because it kind of plays in that space but doesn't quite land. So, a tasty dish, but not really chili con carne. I want to look at Heston Blumenthal's chili. Now, if you know anything about Heston, you'll recall that he has a series called In Search of Perfection, in that he picks up classic dishes and attempts to distill them down to find out what is the best version of them. I'm not going to attempt that today. It's a little bit route one. I have done it before, a very long time ago. I want to do something a little bit different from his book, Is This a Cookbook? A very undersung book full of loads of interesting stories and musings from the man himself. And as I approach this video, I really want to pick up on something he's written to accompany the recipe. The fact that something's considered a classic is no reason not to play around with it. Respect rather than reverence is the name of the game as far as I'm concerned. And I think that's really what this video is about, is like looking at chili con carne, this absolute classic that everybody has their own take on, and seeing different ways to approach it. And yet, do we still capture the spirit of the dish? Now there is a twist to this recipe coming up because it's Heston, but it starts in quite an ordinary way. We'll start by browning some beef mince and then removing to the side. Deglazing. We'll fry an onion gently and then add garlic and chilli and allow them to soften and become aromatic. A few minutes further on and I'll be adding tomato puree. Now we've got our excellent base. Pour in some red wine. I'm going to chuck the cooked mince back into the pan and simmer for about 25 minutes until reduced by 2/3. After that simmering time, we're going to add chopped tomatoes, beef stock, and again leave it here to reduce for an hour and a half. While that chili approaches its final simmer, let's prepare Heston's magic touch, which is some spiced chocolate. Chocolate is not a stranger to chili con carne, as Heston also says in his book. Some people might consider this a step too far, but chili con carne's origins straddle the border between Texas and Mexico. I've been to chili cook-offs in America where competitors have added cocoa powder or chocolate, and Mexico has a long tradition of putting chocolate in its mole sauce, so why not? So let's knock up a batch of this spicy chocolate. To melted chocolate, I'm adding butter, cumin, coriander, chili powder, ketchup, and Worcester sauce. I'm just going to pour this into a silicone mould to set. And we'll use this as a finishing ingredient. And so after about an hour's simmering and stewing, our chili just needs the final ingredients added. I'm adding here some kidney beans. They're straight from a can, so they're cooked, they're just going to get warmed through. And similarly, here are some jarred cooked peppers that have been char grilled. And then once they're warmed, our chocolate. I've just tried a piece and it's classic Heston. You get confused slightly by the sweetness and the spiciness. You can taste ketchup in it, and yet it's not ketchup flavoured, if that makes sense. And so I'm just going to let that melt through so we can serve our chili. Heston's chili then, not onerous by Heston standards, really not much more work than any other chili con carne recipe you might have. Brown off some mince, fry some aromatics, add other things, let it sit around and cook by itself. Obviously, just that spiced chocolate, so let's give it a go. It's complicated. It's got that deep, robust, cocoa-y flavour at the bottom, but it is recognisably chili con carne. It was interesting that usually in a chili con carne I would add a load of spices near the beginning of the cook, maybe chili, cumin, coriander, whatever, paprika, whatever makes your chili con carne. I would add that then and just let that sit in the cooking liquor for the entire cooking process. But here, adding the spices into the chocolate and letting that blend and bloom. Obviously I used a pretty good quality chocolate. You do get a tiny amount of sweetness, tiny, but that's really tasty and mostly recognisably chili con carne, and not acres of work either. So we've got 3 recipes for chilli there, and what have we learned? So we've got Nigella's there as a quick shortcut way, using chorizo to fool us into thinking we're having a chili con carne. We've got Jamie Oliver's method, where we cook the meat and the sauce separately. Didn't really put me in mind of chili con carne, but an interesting recipe nonetheless. Then you've got Heston, a little bit more home traditional, I would say, but with the addition of that spiced chocolate, which has a rich depth to it. What would I recommend you do? Well, Nigella's, as I say, is great for a weeknight. Jamie's is good fun, but I think works better with pasta, if I'm honest. And I would recommend you try a little bit of dark chocolate in your next chili to see if you like it. All interesting recipes by themselves. What's the secret to your chili recipe? If you dare, tell me in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll catch you next time.